First of all, good morning, everyone. My intention in this seminar, like we've done in the past, was to talk a little bit about the trends in mobile, what's happening, and give you a sense of the different technologies, the different options, and get a little bit more information out there, because I know we're all anxious about this trend. We're trying to understand how fast it's happening, what is happening. Nobody wants to be disintermediated. Nobody wants the disruptive technology to take over a part of their business or a large part of their business. So I think with the help of the IMTC, we're educating, we're opening up channels, we're connecting the remittance industry with providers of mobile technology and even mobile consulting, so that you guys are ready when the time is right, and we think the time is now, to act and to select the right providers and the right approach. What I wanted to do with my warm-up act is really to debunk some myths, define some terms in the industry, clarify a little bit how the mobile ecosystem works, so that the rest of the presentation start making a lot more sense and you can place them in the right context in the mobile ecosystem. And I'm told this works. Somebody stole the batteries? Here we go. So the first thing to know is when we talk about mobile, there are different applications of mobile. And we need it to be clarified so that you can see who is who in the ecosystem. The mobile payment is what we talk about most of the time, and it's a financial transaction that's either initiated or terminated or facilitated by a mobile phone. That's very different from mobile banking, which is the ability to access your banking services and your bank account through an application on a mobile phone or through SMS. And these are not necessarily related at all. And we're seeing very different developments around the world in a lot of places where mobile wallets are succeeding, like Kenya, like Belgium, like Philippines. These are mobile wallet applications. In the US, we're mostly used to mobile banking application. Then you have mobile-supported initiatives, which aren't necessarily financial transaction, but the mobile act as sometimes a validation device by sending you a confirmation code or asking for a confirmation, or a marketing device, or any sort of process in the value chain, non-financial process, that the mobile phone is used to find the customer, deliver information to the customer, or get information from the customer. There's a lot of applications already like that. Mobile authentication is a subset of mobile support, but it's a way to use the mobile to authenticate the person, usually through a text message or some sort of PIN. And mobile top-up, which is a whole different animal, which is the ability to add balance or add minutes to a mobile phone, whether it's your phone or somebody else's phone, in this country or another country. So these are very different types of mobile and application. It's important to understand the differences. In the mobile world, there's an application that's been around for a while called bill to mobile or bill to phone, which is, again, not what we consider as being mobile payments, but it's the ability for you to make a transaction and have the bill appear on your phone bill. And it's prevalent somewhat in the US. You've probably heard of companies like Zong and Boku. And the process is very simple. You use it like almost like a credit card. You go on a website. It's mostly used in website applications, mostly used for digital content, because the commissions on this type of payment are so high that if you have tangible goods, it's very difficult to justify the payment. Commissions go between 30% to 60-70%, depending on the countries. It's mostly used for gaming. So if any of you is familiar with games online and social gaming, like Zynga, for example, that puts all the games on Facebook, they target teenagers. Teenagers don't have cards, so they found a way to bill their parents through their phones. That's what bill to mobile is. And basically, you enter your phone number on the website as a payment method. You get an SMS that says, here's the code. You go back and enter the confirmation code on the website, and the bill appears on your phone bill. And this is truly, I don't think, a payment application just because of the commission that is being required. I think it'll stay confined to the gaming space, to the virtual goods space on the internet. But it allowed a lot of these companies to have an immense penetration. Actually, Zong recently got bought by PayPal for $270 million back in July. So it's a niche market, but it's a big market because the gaming market is increasingly popular. But that's not, again, what we talk about when we talk about mobile payments and their applications to the money transfer world. So I wanted to get this part, this myth, a little bit out of the way. Now, when we talk about the mobile ecosystem, obviously, and it'll become more clear as we go through the different presentations of the day, you have all sorts of players. You have the banks, you have the telecom operators, you have financial institutions that are pushing for a space in that, be it Visa, MasterCard, Western Union with their program, MoneyGram with their program. You have the handset manufacturers that are looking to put chips or embed programs that allow them to do mobile payments. You have technology providers, which are the people coming to market with a solution so that companies like us who don't have the time or the ability to develop solutions like that can find a quick entry into the market. Regulators, obviously there's a question on who regulates what also, because when you start involving telco operators, there's a whole different body of regulators that supervise telco operations. Like in the US, you have the Federal Trade Commission. And so what happens to a transfer on a mobile phone, and who's the ultimate regulator, or do several regulators get to vouch the transaction and the processes and the compliance? You have retailers, obviously, who want to be able to accept payment from mobile and cash in, cash out point in case it's a preload kind of stored value mobile phone where you have to find a way for people to put money on their phone and take money off their phone. And what the challenge that I think is coming up is all these operators have a role. It could be bigger or smaller. Depending on the countries, we're seeing some of these players have either a bigger role or a smaller role. If you take the case of Kenya, for example, the telco operator has a very big role. You take a case of some other applications, the bank has a bigger role. Belgium, again, it's the telco operator. Western Union, as a financial institution, is trying to connect the whole world on mobile. So one of the big challenges in mobile is that a lot of these roles haven't been fully defined yet, nor has the value chain been fully defined, nor has the commission sharing and the revenue sharing been fully defined. So hopefully as we go through the presentation and some of the panels, we get some more clarification on different applications around the world. But I think that's one of the challenges that the industry has to overcome in order for everybody to know their role, their borders, and how the value operates. And that gives you a little bit an idea of the complexity of what's involved. I mean, typically you would look at the money transfer world, you have a sending agent, an MSB, another MSB, and a receiving agent. We're used to pretty straightforward graphs. It gets a little complicated when you have all the different players calculated in the equations. You have the merchant that can accept the payment, the financial service provider that's going to bank the merchant, the telco operator that's going to provide technology to support the payment if it's supported by the phone, or it could be done by a technology provider, which is on the top left. How the transaction gets routed and the role of the telco could vary. It could go through the network of the telco as a data transmission or a text message, and the telcos are completely agnostic and not necessarily involved. Or it could be an integral part of how they communicate, and they're a player into the system. And then the regulators will still have to define the space. Then there's the issue of technology, and the world still hasn't necessarily settled on one technology. We're seeing, again, different application. Some countries are changing their applications. Kenya started with SMS. They had fraud. They moved later to a different type of protocol, USSD, that allows them to have more security on the payment. Some countries are going that way. Other countries where smartphone penetration is higher, it's about 34% in the US, may choose to go more on the app-driven approach, where you download an app onto your smartphone, whether it's an Android or an iPod or an iPhone or a BlackBerry, and interact this way. PayPal has this technology, for instance. So do a lot of technology providers. You have the web browser, so part of the challenge, if you don't have a smartphone, how do you interact on a candy bar phone that can basically support a very basic type of browser? And by the way, 80% of the world phones are browser enabled. Some way or shape, there's a way to browse. It's not just text message driven. So there are multiple ways to approach this. You could interact with an IVR, a voice response unit, on a computer that you answer the phone to, and by pressing buttons you could confirm transfers or receive transfers. Starbucks came up with an interesting barcode technology where a barcode is displayed on the cell phone, and it allows them to go to a cashier, scan it, with their existing scanner and make a payment, and they have a thriving payment application. I think they've processed about 2 million payments so far on their Starbucks card-linked phone application. And finally, NFC, which is seeing a great push. It's a technology that allows you to communicate between a small chip, a small radio chip. It stands for near-field communication, and another chip. So the chip could be on the POS device and on your phone, or it could be on another phone, and when you bump the phones, the payment happens. It's seeing a lot of pushes. We'll see in a little while who's working on it. The issue is you have to replace the terminals around the world that the merchants use, and you have to embed the NFC on the phone. There are different ways of doing it on the phone. There are solutions that give you stickers that you can put on the back of your phone. There are solutions where the memory card of your phone can be an NFC chip, and obviously the telco-supported one where it's embedded either on the SIM card or inside the handset, which then involves the handset manufacturers. And then on the merchant acceptance side, you have to look at Ingenico and Verifone and these guys, and they're starting to push. They ship about 1 million terminals every year, so it can recycle at that pace. But until today, there's only 144,000 terminals in the US and 300 terminals worldwide that are NFC enabled. So we think that technology, as far as merchants are concerned, is probably 3 to 5 years away from enough penetration that it becomes truly relevant. But again, I think as you look at this, to really be future-proof and to be able to enter the market simply, you want to look for a solution that supports as many of those criteria as possible. You don't want to be stuck in a solution that is, for example, only NFC, and then you're looking at 3 to 5 years until people start taking it and it starts becoming accepted. You also don't want to be stuck on a solution that's only SMS and then face some fraud issues, because SMS is not encrypted in the air, so it has some issues with it. You don't want to have that issue, and then later you have to upgrade or change providers. So the idea is, as you think through selecting providers or technologies, make sure you cover as many of these methods as possible. Another way to look at mobile payments is also by transaction type. So on one hand, you have the stored value approach, where you load value on the phone, and the phone is in essence like a prepaid card. You have, it could be done by cash in, cash out load. You load it from your card, your bank account, or even payroll deposit ultimately. You can even think of it as a smart prepaid card that you can interact with through your phone. Then you have the P2P type of transactions, which is payment between phone and phone. There's actually an interesting application that PayPal uses called Bump, which works on iPhone. I don't think it works on Android yet, where you can bump the phone and they recognize each other's, and you can effect a payment. But it can also be used for online purchases or offline purchases. And interestingly enough, it's taken off a lot in online, I think just because of the type of customers and technology. In-store, it hasn't taken off as much yet, partly because NFC is seen as the future, and there's not a lot of terminals yet. But in essence, there's also, other than NFCs, there are protocols where you can communicate through the cloud to the existing POS device of a merchant and back to the phone and bypass the requirement for an NFC chip and be able to effect a payment. So some countries may go with a virtual cloud approach. Some countries may push for NFC. It's still a bit unclear now. But if you look again at the example of Kenya or some of these countries, in essence, when you go to buy something at a merchant, you're doing a P2P payment to the phone of that merchant, and he's giving you the goods. And so it's more of a cloud solution than a POS or NFC-driven solution. Another use of mobile phone, obviously, is ancillary services, because it could be an aggregation of all types of payment services that are useful to a customer. Money transfer, bill payment, cash in, cash out, mobile top-up, etc., etc. You can see all the possible applications.